Welcome to Lesson 2. Now we have previously looked at various credit options. Here we'll look at credit card repayments. So paying off your credit card's balance through monthly installments. So example 1. A bank's website helps users determine how long and how much interest they'll be charged on their credit card balance. Tony entered the following information on the website. So he said his credit card balance was $1,000 and he has an 18% annual interest rate. Now he was given 3 options. He could make minimum payments. Option B, make the minimum payment plus an additional amount. Or option C, pay a fixed amount each month. So let's look at option A. He can make the minimum payment of $10 or 3% of the balance, whichever is greater. Now it says based on the information that you provided, your first minimum payment amount is $30. Your minimum payment will decrease as you pay off your balance. So let's look to see where they came up with $30. Well, his balance is $1,000 and we have to find 3% of that. Now 3% expressed as a decimal is 0.03. Multiplying that together, I get $30. So 3% of the balance was greater here. Now for the first month, 3% is greater, but it won't always be. As the balance decreases, there'll be a point when $10 is greater. So for example, just say his balance is $100. If I find 3% of that, I only get $3. So in this case, he would pay the minimum monthly amount of $10. So the minimum payment is going to change each month. Now option B, he makes a minimum payment, but he tacks on an additional amount. He tacks on $5. So we know for the first month, he pay $35. Now option C, he pays a fixed amount each month. He pays $100. Now let's look at the results of these 3 options. If he chooses option A and makes a minimum payment, it would take him 10 years to pay off the balance. He would pay $798.89 in interest for a total of $1,798.89. Now if he chooses option B, he'd pay it off a bit quicker in 6 years and 2 months. And he would pay $512.52 in interest. And option C, it would pay $100 each month. It would be paid off in 11 months, and he pays $91.62 in interest. So what payment plan results in the least amount of interest paid? In this case, it would be option C. He only pays $91.62. B. How much money would Tony save by paying it off in $100 installments as opposed to just making the minimum payment? So in other words, how much cheaper is option C than option A? Well, let's subtract the interest to find out how much he'd save. Option A, he has to pay $798.89 in interest. And for option C, he pays $91.62 in interest for a difference of $707.27. So we'd say that he would save $707.27. Now, how much of an effect did adding $5 onto the minimum payment have? Well, he saved not only money, he also saved time. So let's see how much money and time he saved. So the minimum payment alone, he paid $798.89 in interest. But if he pays the minimum payment plus $5, he's paying $512.52 in interest for a difference of $286.37. Now in terms of time, 10 years subtract 6 years and 2 months would be 3 years and 10 months. So now we can say that he saved $286.37 and 3 years, 10 months. And lastly, in general, what happens to the amount of interest paid as the repayment periods decrease? So as you pay it off quicker, what happens to the amount of interest? So we can say that the quicker you pay off your loan, the less interest you'll have to pay.